Hello friends, this video on Morphology of Flowering Plants Part 1 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Topics to be covered in this lesson are Introduction, Root, Stem, Leaf, Inflorescence, Flower, Fruit and Seed. So what do you think are we going to talk about in this lesson? When I say morphology of flowering plants, the first thing that strikes our mind is, what is morphology? So let us first look at the definition of morphology. Now if you actually look at the term morpho, it always talks about the external features. So the external structure or features of an organism is referred to as morphology. I mean, it is not the external structure, but the branch of science which deals with the study of external structure and features of an organism. Now, what do I mean when I say external structure? So what exactly are the external structure of any organism? So let us take an example of any organism which we see around us. The best examples would be something like an insect or a fish. So what do you think are the external structures which I am referring to? Maybe the wings of an insect, maybe the fins of a fish, or the tail of a fish. So these are some of the structures which we see externally, right? So these external structures, different type of organisms have different types of external structures. So you can just see here that how different a fish looks from a cockroach. Similarly, how different a human being looks from a fish or a lion or a tiger. So why is that difference? That difference is because of both internal structures as well as external structure. But in this lesson, we are only going to concentrate on the external structures, so the structures which are visible to us. So for a human being, we have 2 hands, 2 legs, we have 5 fingers in each hand. So these are some of the things which are visible externally. So they are all the morphological characters of an organism. Now this lesson is dedicated to the morphology of plants, and that too the flowering plants. So we have already studied in one of our previous lessons the diversity in living organisms, where we discussed about the different variety of organisms which exist on this earth. So in that we had spoken about the different kingdoms, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom. So here we will only concentrate on the plant kingdom, and that too only on the flowering plants. So we will talk about the external features of plants in detail. So even in flowering plants, or not only flowering plants, if I talk about plants, in plants we again have so many varieties of plants. We have big trees, we have small herbs, we have some plants which do not have flowers, that is the gymnosperms. Some of them are the flowering plants. We also have the spiny or the thorny cactus. So again, if you look at all organisms of the plant kingdom, even they show so much of variations amongst each other. So here in the screen itself, if you look at the 4 different types of plants which are shown here, they look so very different from each other. So why do they look different? Because of some of the differences in their external structures or external features. The appearance of a cactus plant is so very different from the appearance of this tomato plant. Right? So they have got different types of leaves, they have got different types of fruits, flowers. So all the different organs in the plant are quite different in different plants. So here we will give a detailed look at the different parts of a plant and how each part of a plant varies from one plant to another. So we will talk about morphology of flowering plants. So with this brief introduction on what are we going to study in this lesson, so let us get started. So when I talk of a plant, in fact when I talk of the external structures or the appearance of a plant, so the first thing that strikes our mind is what are the different parts of a plant. I mean, we see a plant as one complete organism, but again externally that can be divided into various parts. For example, if you look at a human being, So one human being is whole as such, but we do have different parts of the body. We have two hands, we have two legs, we have one face, we have two eyes. So they are all different parts which together constitute one human being. So similarly, in case of a plant also, they have different parts which together form a plant. Now we will start from the broader perspective. So broadly, any plant I talk about can be divided broadly into two systems. One is the root system and the other is the shoot system. So this is something which is very basic, and all of us have been studying this since years, right? Since we were in class 3 or 4 when we actually started studying science. It is since that time we have been studying about the root system and the shoot system, right? So but still we will start from the basics so that we do not have any doubts in our mind when we go ahead. Now, talking about the root system, which is very obvious, I don't need to explain much. That portion of the plant which is assumed to be under the soil. I mean, that is the general concept which we have about the root system. And when I talk about the shoot system, it is that part of the plant which grows above the soil. So basically, maybe this portion. But now, let me tell you something very interesting. Now, as we go ahead with this lesson, you'll actually see that it is not always necessary that the roots has to be under the soil. There are plants where the roots are not under the soil. So we will look at all those cases. So similarly, it is not that the shoot system, that all parts of the shoot system has always to be above the soil. So we will look at those exceptions. We will look at those types of plants. So we will have detailed look on each of these parts. Now talking about the shoot system, now the shoot system is again divided into many parts, because the part of the plant which remains above the ground, it again consists of so many things. It has leaves, it has flowers, fruits, buds. So there are actually so many things. So all these things together constitute the shoot system, right? So in this lesson, our agenda is to discuss each of these parts of a plant in detail. That is, what is root, starting with root. So we will first talk about root, then stem, then leaf, flower, fruit, seed. So we will talk about each of these parts in detail. Now you might think, what are we going to study about each of them? I mean, we all know that root is something which actually helps the plant to remain fixed at one place, or some basic things we already know. So what are we going to study in detail now? Now we will see here that how the same root gets modified in different plants. So in different types of plants, we see root present in different forms. Similarly, there are different types of plants where we see leaves are modified into different forms to serve some special functions. So we will talk about the various functions of each of these parts, how they appear in different types of plants. So that is our agenda for this lesson. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.